For a long time, I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of, maybe this is all part of a plan.
We have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death.
After 28 years of silence, buried files, and swirling conspiracies, a renowned scientist has unearthed something unthinkable buried deep within Princess Diana's case. Something so staggering, it's shaking the world to its core.
Millions lined the route, and television stations the world over cleared their schedules to carry pictures of the young princes.
What was thought to be a tragic accident may now hold secrets no one was ever meant to uncover. For decades, questions have lingered, theories dismissed, until now. So what exactly did this scientist discover? And why is the royal family silent? Brace yourself. This is the revelation the world never saw coming.
We can't imagine that she's forgotten. The people always tell sometimes she's forgotten. She's not forgotten.
The unpublished truth. On the tragic night of August 31st, 1997, the world lost Princess Diana in a devastating car crash in Paris. A moment that sparked global grief and, soon after, a storm of conspiracy theories that still echo today. Among the many rumors and suspicions, one of the most explosive claims emerged years later, that Diana was allegedly 9 to 10 weeks pregnant at the time of the accident. This shocking assertion was made by French investigative journalist Chris Lafay. He claimed to have uncovered secret hospital documents suggesting that Diana was indeed expecting. According to Lafay, these records were found hidden in the archives of the prestigious Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris, where Diana was taken after the crash. In his gripping book, Diana, The Inquiry They Never Published, he focused on what he saw as evidence that was deliberately kept from the public eye. The accident itself remains etched in public memory. Diana, her companion Dodi Al-Fayed, and their driver Henri Paul all died as a result of the crash inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Only Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, survived. Though Diana was alive and conscious when rescuers pulled her from the wreckage, she succumbed to her injuries at around 4 a.m. that morning at the hospital. Lafay claimed that the surgeon who performed the post-mortem examination noted that the princess showed signs of being in the early stages of pregnancy. He didn't stop at merely stating this bold claim. Lafay said he tried to alert top French government officials, including Jean-Pierre Chevènement, the interior minister at the time, Bernard Kouchner, Minister of Health, Hubert Védrine, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Martin Montet, Paris's police chief. Despite his efforts, he said, no one responded publicly. One twist that made Lafay's claim even more intriguing was his allegation that the baby was not Dodi's. Instead, he pointed to Hasnat Khan, a British-Pakistani heart surgeon with whom Diana had been romantically involved for 2 years prior. Lafay highlighted that Diana had only known Dodi for about 2 months before her death, making it biologically unlikely, in his view, that Dodi could have been the father. Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, however, told a different story. He passionately believed that his son and Diana were deeply in love and planning to marry, and that she was pregnant with his grandchild. In 2003, he appeared on the U.S. television program Primetime to claim that Diana had personally called him to share the happy news. During the formal inquest into her death, he repeated these claims under oath, insisting that the royal family and intelligence services orchestrated the crash to prevent the marriage. He famously declared to the jury, "I am talking to the jury. They are ordinary people. You don't see this as a major cover-up?" Official investigations concluded that the crash was caused by driver Henri Paul's intoxication and the aggressive pursuit by paparazzi. Yet Mohammed Al-Fayed remained unsatisfied, alleging that the British establishment simply couldn't allow a Muslim man to marry the mother of the future King of England. He even claimed that Diana had confided to him that Prince Philip wanted her out of the way. Even today, these claims stir curiosity and controversy. Was Diana truly pregnant? Was the crash merely a tragic accident? Or something more sinister? The mystery remains unresolved, a haunting chapter in the life of a princess gone too soon. Just as Diana's tragic death leaves the world in grief, the shocking discovery is one that cannot be swept under the carpet. Let's take a dive into the details of Princess Diana's death. Princess Diana's death. In the quiet early hours of August 31st, 1997, the world woke to news that would break millions of hearts. Diana, Princess of Wales, had died following a horrific car crash in Paris. The accident occurred in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, a dark passage beneath the bright lights of the city. In the car with her were her companion, Dodi Fayed, and their driver, Henri Paul. Both men died instantly at the scene. Only one man, Dodi's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, survived the crash. Barely. He suffered severe injuries and was left with no memory of what happened that night. Earlier that evening, Diana and Dodi had left the luxurious Ritz Hotel, trying to escape the aggressive crowd of paparazzi that followed their every move. Behind the wheel was Henri Paul, the hotel's deputy head of security. Their attempt at a quiet getaway turned tragic in seconds. Later investigations revealed a haunting detail. Henri Paul was driving at high speed while under the influence of alcohol and powerful prescription drugs, including antidepressants and an antipsychotic. This dangerous combination likely dulled his senses and impaired his ability to drive safely. A French investigation, concluded in 1999, found that the crash had been caused by Paul's reckless driving while intoxicated, although the paparazzi chasing the car were noted as contributing to the pressure of the moment. The blame fell squarely on Paul. Nearly a decade later, in 2008, a British inquest, known as Operation Paget, gave an even more damning verdict. The deaths were the result of unlawful killing due to gross negligence, both by Henri Paul and the photographers who pursued them. One small but haunting detail captured public interest: the seat belts. It was first believed that Rees-Jones survived because he was the only one wearing a seatbelt, but that belief didn't hold up. Later reports confirmed that none of the passengers had been buckled in, a simple act that might have saved lives. It was a sobering reminder that sometimes the smallest decisions have the greatest impact. Princess Diana was just 36 years old when her life was abruptly taken. Her death didn't just sadden a nation, it sent shockwaves across the entire globe. Within hours, people poured into the streets with flowers, handwritten notes, candles, and tears. It was a grief that didn't hide behind closed doors. It was open, raw, and unforgettable. For many, Diana wasn't just a royal. She was a symbol of kindness, vulnerability, and strength. On September 6, 1997, the world came to a pause. Diana's funeral, watched by an estimated 2.5 billion people, became one of the most viewed events in television history, as her brother delivered his heartfelt tribute, and Elton John performed "Candle in the Wind." The world mourned a woman whose life had lit up millions of others. Diana's tireless work for AIDS patients, her bold stand against landmines, and her compassion for the most vulnerable made her more than a princess. She was a humanitarian force. Decades later, the memory of that tragic night still lingers. Questions remain. Emotions still rise. Conspiracy theories continue to circle. But what remains clearest is this: Princess Diana's death was not just the end of a royal life. It was the loss of a light in the world, a moment where fame, pressure, and the hunger for privacy collided in a tunnel and left the world a little dimmer. Although Diana's resting place is hidden from the public, the funeral was graced by people from all over the world. Let's delve into the details of the royal funeral. Diana's funeral. When Princess Diana passed away in 1997, there was initial uncertainty about whether she would be given a ceremonial funeral. Since her divorce from Prince Charles the year before, she had officially lost her title of Her Royal Highness. This change in royal status led many to wonder if the traditional honors reserved for royalty would still be extended to her. However, the public response to Diana's death was nothing short of extraordinary. The nation, and much of the world, was plunged into deep mourning. People from all walks of life were stunned, heartbroken and united in grief. In London alone, about 3 million people gathered to pay their respects on the day of her funeral, held on September 6, 1997, at Westminster Abbey. The ceremony was both grand and emotional. Outside the Abbey and in Hyde Park, enormous screens and loudspeakers were set up so crowds could follow the proceedings live. Among the attendees were high-profile figures such as U.S. First Lady Hillary Clinton and France's First Lady Bernadette Chirac. Famous personalities like the opera legend Luciano Pavarotti and Diana's close friends, musicians George Michael and Elton John, were also present. One of the most unforgettable moments of the funeral was when Elton John performed a reworked version of his classic song Candle in the Wind. The new version, titled Goodbye England's Rose, was a heartfelt tribute to Diana. The performance moved millions, and the song went on to become the best-selling single of all time, selling over 33 million copies around the world. The emotional tension of the day heightened when Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, gave a passionate speech. He openly criticized the relentless press coverage that had haunted Diana during her life, and also took a veiled swipe at the royal family for how she had been treated. The audience, breaking royal protocol, responded with loud applause, an unusual gesture in such formal settings. The funeral broadcast reached far beyond the streets of London. In Britain alone, more than 31 million people watched it on television. Globally, estimates suggest that around 2.5 billion people tuned in, making it one of the most watched events in history. The service was broadcast in 44 different languages to meet the international outpouring of interest and sorrow. After the ceremony ended, Diana's coffin was placed in a black Daimler hearse and taken to her family home in Althorp. As the funeral procession moved through the streets and onto the M1 motorway, people showered the hearse with flowers. Some motorists even stopped their cars to pay their respects as it passed by, a powerful image of national mourning. Diana was laid to rest in a private burial on an island in the middle of a quiet lake called the Oval, part of the serene pleasure garden at Althorp. Her coffin, lined with lead as is customary for British royals, weighed about 250 kilograms, 550 pounds. She was dressed in a simple yet elegant black Catherine Walker dress, black tights, and held a rosary in her hands, a touching gift from Mother Teresa, who had passed away just one day before Diana's funeral. Today, a visitor's center near the burial site opens during summer months, offering an exhibition about Diana's life and a walking trail around the lake. All profits from the center go to the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, ensuring that her legacy of compassion and service lives on. What about the burial? How did it go? Where was she buried? Let's dig into the details of the events of Diana's burial. Diana's burial. Princess Diana was laid to rest in a quiet, deeply personal ceremony later that same day, away from the glare of the public eye. Those closest to her, her former husband Prince Charles, her beloved sons William and Harry, her mother, siblings, a trusted friend, and a clergyman, gathered in solemn silence to say goodbye. She was dressed with dignity and grace, in a black, long-sleeved, three-quarter-length woolen cocktail dress designed by Catherine Walker, an outfit she had selected herself just a few weeks earlier. On her legs, she wore black stockings, and on her feet, a matching pair of black shoes. Clasped in her hands was a simple string of rosary beads, a heartfelt gift from Mother Teresa, who, in a poignant twist of fate, had passed away in the same week as Diana. Also, nestled in her hands was a treasured photograph of her sons, one she always carried with her in her handbag. It was only fitting that the memory of her boys accompanied her on this final journey. Her grave lies on a small, peaceful island set in the midst of an ornamental lake called the Round Oval, within the grounds of Althorp Park, the Spencer family estate, and home for generations. Before she was buried, the ground was blessed by the Bishop of Peterborough, making the final resting place sacred. There was a moment of tension during the ceremony. The royal standard, which draped Diana's coffin, was removed. According to her former butler, Paul Burrell, it was taken off by her brother, Earl Spencer, who replaced it with the Spencer family flag. Burrell later said that Earl Spencer declared, She is a Spencer now, and criticized the action as disrespectful. He believed it reflected a personal battle between the Spencer and Windsor families, rather than honoring what Diana herself would have wanted. Burrell felt the act denied Diana the royal status she held with pride. Earl Spencer, however, denied these claims, calling them hurtful lies. He stated that the royal standard had been removed with dignity as part of a previously agreed-upon plan involving the Queen's own officer. Originally, Diana was to be buried in the Spencer family vault at St. Mary's Church in Great Brington, but concerns over safety, media intrusion, and the inevitable flood of visitors led Earl Spencer to choose a more secluded place, one where Diana's sons and family could visit in peace and privacy. The island itself is both serene and symbolic, a path lined with 36 oak trees, one for each year of her life, leads to the lake. Black swans glide across the water, while white lilies float on the surface. Both lilies and white roses were among Diana's favorite flowers. Near the southern edge of the island stands the Summer House, a small structure once part of Admiralty House in London, now transformed into a quiet memorial for the princess. Nearby, an ancient arboretum holds trees planted by the Spencer family over the years, further deepening the sense of heritage and memory. The honor of carrying Diana to her final resting place was given to soldiers from the 2nd Battalion, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, the very regiment she had served as Colonel-in-Chief from 1992 to 1996. With dignity and reverence, they bore her across the water, placing her gently on the island where she now rests, forever surrounded by nature, love, and silence. Princess Diana's sudden death cannot be disconnected to her divorce that ended her marriage with Charles. Let's take a closer look at her tragic love story with Charles. The tragic love story of Charles and Diana. In 1981, the world paused to witness what seemed like the perfect fairy tale, the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer. It was a dazzling royal spectacle, full of splendor, tradition, and dreams of happily ever after. To millions watching, it felt like a real-life romance out of a storybook. The handsome prince marrying a shy, beautiful young woman in a grand ceremony broadcast across the globe. The promise of lasting love and enchantment sparkled in the air. But once the carriages rolled away and the palace gates closed, a much more painful and complex story began to unfold. One not of magic, but of misunderstanding, sadness, and emotional turmoil. Their love story was built on shaky ground from the beginning. Prince Charles, still mourning the assassination of his mentor, Lord Mountbatten, was vulnerable and longing for stability. Diana, noble by birth, Anglican, and scandal-free, checked all the boxes for a future queen. To the royal family, she was ideal. To Charles, she seemed like the safe, sweet choice, but they had barely gotten to know each other. They'd met just about a dozen times before Charles proposed. Beneath the surface charm, there was no real emotional foundation. What followed was less a true love story and more a carefully arranged match driven by royal expectations and pressure. Diana was only 19, a wide-eyed teenager with a tender heart, suddenly pulled from a carefree life into the strict, cold world of the monarchy. The transition was brutal. She was surrounded by luxury yet deeply lonely. Trapped in endless royal duties and surrounded by unfamiliar rules, she felt invisible and misunderstood. The emotional scars from her troubled childhood were only deepened by her new reality. Isolated and overwhelmed, Diana developed bulimia, a silent cry for help that went unnoticed for years. She was adored by the public, but behind the palace curtains, she was suffering in silence. Charles, in his early 30s, had been under pressure for years to marry. His father, Prince Philip, and the media were growing impatient. He convinced himself that love could blossom in time, but Diana needed more than duty. She needed warmth, companionship, and emotional support. When she noticed Charles's lingering affection for Camilla Parker Bowles, his former lover, the fragile trust in their marriage began to collapse. Though Charles had paused the relationship during his engagement, the emotional bond with Camilla never truly ended. Diana sensed it. and it haunted her. Their marriage slowly turned into an emotional battlefield. Words went unspoken, feelings went unheard. Diana once famously said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage," referring to Camilla's constant presence in Charles's heart. Despite sharing joyful moments, especially through their sons, William and Harry, the emotional distance between them kept growing. The children brought moments of closeness, but they couldn't fix what was already broken. Diana yearned for genuine love and emotional connection. Charles felt increasingly resentful as his wife's popularity soared. The public adored Diana, her vulnerability, her compassion, her authenticity. Charles, on the other hand, felt left in the shadows. Instead of drawing closer, he retreated into tradition, into duty, and into Camilla's familiar presence. In the end, Charles and Diana were a tragic pairing. 2 people pushed together by duty rather than choice, lost in a life neither truly wanted, under the relentless gaze of the public eye. Their story, wrapped in royalty and sorrow, is a powerful reminder that even the grandest fairy tales can conceal deep and painful truths. And not all crowns come with joy. Princess Diana's early life is one that made her stand out from her peers. In fact, it reportedly gave her an edge over Camilla, while Charles decided to get married. Let's dive into the details of Princess Diana's early childhood. Diana's childhood. Diana, Frances Spencer, who would one day capture the hearts of millions around the world, was born on July 1, 1961 at Park House, a stately home nestled in Sandringham, Norfolk. She was the 4th of 5 children born to John Spencer, known then as Viscount Althorp, and Frances Spencer, formerly Frances Roche. Though her arrival was a moment of joy, it came with quiet disappointment for her parents, who had been hoping for a boy to carry on the Spencer family name. For a whole week after her birth, she remained unnamed until they settled on Diana Frances, a tribute both to her mother and a distant relative, Lady Diana Spencer, who was once considered as a possible bride for Frederick, Prince of Wales. The Spencers were no strangers to royalty. For generations, they had moved in royal circles. Both of Diana's grandmothers had served Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, as ladies-in-waiting. Royalty, in many ways, was part of Diana's family fabric. In fact, as a child, she fondly referred to Queen Elizabeth II as Aunt Lilibet. From an early age, Diana displayed an air of grace and charm that earned her the playful nickname Duch from her family, short for Duchess, because she carried herself with a quiet nobility even as a child. She was baptized on August 30, 1961, at St. Mary Magdalene Church, just a short walk from her home. Diana grew up with her 3 siblings, Sarah, Jane, and Charles. A brother, John, had died in infancy a year before Diana was born, a tragedy that left a deep mark on the family. The longing for a male heir cast a heavy shadow over her parents' relationship. Her mother, Lady Althorp, was even subjected to emotionally painful visits to medical specialists in Harley Street as the couple tried to understand why they couldn't produce a living son. According to Diana's younger brother Charles, this anguish played a large role in the eventual breakdown of their marriage. Her early years were spent at Park House, which was leased from Queen Elizabeth II. It was a home filled with royal echoes, as the nearby Sandringham House was the Queen's country retreat. Diana often played with the young Princes Andrew and Edward, giving her a unique glimpse into royal life from a tender age. But her childhood was far from idyllic. When Diana was just 7, her parents' turbulent marriage ended in divorce. After the separation, she initially lived with her mother in London. However, during a Christmas holiday visit, her father refused to let her return to her mother. Backed by Lady Fermoy, her maternal grandmother, he was awarded full custody of Diana. This separation from her mother left deep emotional scars. In 1976, her father remarried Rain, Countess of Dartmouth, a woman Diana never warmed to. Their relationship was tense and bitter. Diana saw her stepmother as controlling and once even pushed her down the stairs in a fit of frustration. She later described her childhood as emotionally difficult and unstable. When her grandfather passed away in 1975, Diana's father became the 8th Earl Spencer, and with that, Diana gained the title Lady Diana. The family moved from Park House to their ancestral home, Althorpe, in Northamptonshire. Though grand in appearance, Diana's early life was shaped more by emotional turmoil than by luxury. What do you think about the events that preceded Princess Diana's death and afterwards? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.